Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Juji. This is HD by Z. This is a space for everyone and anyone who's interested in the human design system. If you're new here, I make videos mostly about celebrity relationships through their chart analysis. I also talk about the system itself, and today is a very special day because I will be sharing with you my talk from the Rocky Mountain Human Design Conference, which I did earlier this year. Before we get into all of that, I just want to remind you all that the link to all of my stuff will be in the show notes, my website, my Instagram, all of these different things. That's where you can see how you can work with me, readings, coaching, relationship analysis, the whole enchilada. So earlier this year, Brayton Balazzo, the founder of the Rocky Mountain Human Design Conference, invited me to speak on sacral health, which just lit me up from the inside out. We had already done an interview on his podcast, the Pure Individual podcast. The link will also be below. And the reason I was so excited to talk about sacral health is because 70% of the population are generators. And this is something that we don't really address much in the human design community. So if you're new to human design, what makes somebody a generator or a type is having a defined sacral, which is the second energy center from the bottom of the chart, as you can see here. And the sacral is like a battery. It is the life force energy of this planet. And for any generator type, the human design journey starts with understanding how to tune in to whether something is a yes, whether you have energy for it, or whether something is a no. You don't have energy to give to that thing. So without further ado, here's my talk. Thank you so much for watching.
All right, guys. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Judy. I'm a 6'2" split definition sacral generator. I have the channel of concentration, the channel of discovery, and the channel of money. It's a doozy. I'm also on the left angle cross of endeavor. And I just wanted you to know who is talking today, whose perspective you'll be filtering, But before we get started, I'd like for you to join me in a collective breath. If you've been in any group that I've led in the past, you know this breath. We take a deep inhale for 4, hold for 7, and release for 8. And we do this 3 times. So, if you'll join me, I'd love for you to plant your feet, shake out your shoulders a little bit. We're just going to ground in. Close your eyes. Exhale all the air out. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Release for 8. Inhale. Hold. Release. One more time. Inhale. Hold. Good. Just want to do it. All right. Let's get started. So when Brayton, our fearless leader, invited me to do this talk on sacral health, I almost immediately said, and I really liked the idea of the word health coming through, because in settings such as these, we're usually talking about the sacral as a mechanic. And when we're talking about health, we're talking about the primary health system, PHS. We're talking about determination, how you fuel your vehicle. We're even talking sometimes about the environment, where your body needs the least amount of resistance. But sacral health, I believe, is a very important subject, which is funny because most people in here are sacral. But there's always something to learn from the other, right? The importance is there. So in the beginning of my human design journey, I remember hearing about how the mind is an outer authority. This was new, obviously. And it's for teaching, for learning, for communication. So where do we go for decision making? We go to our response. We're here to respond to life as it comes at us. But we're mostly taught to initiate through the mind. And this is a big focus, determining the difference, the distinction between the initiation and the response. I could look back at my life and sort of reverse engineer some really messy situations that I got myself into initiating. So I resonated with it. Who here remembers any messy situation that they initiated? All right. So I kept listening to that initial reading, and I remember hearing my teacher, Stephen, say to me, you know, when your mind hears that you're here to give up this thing for this noisemaker, it's not going to like it at all. What, you're just going to listen to ahs and ahs and grunts and groans? No. The mind is going to hear you say, and it's going to say, yeah, but wait a minute. And then comes the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? So since then, a lot of generators and MGs have come to me in the beginning of their process, wanting to make sure that they're not initiating, that they're having a true response for something. But the truth is, if you do mental gymnastics long enough, anything can be a response. So really, what we're here to learn, and what I've learned throughout my process, is that the biggest dilemma for generators is not necessarily initiating instead of responding. It's saying yes when we really mean no. I think I'm taking yes. So when I heard Stephen say about the mind and the noisemaker, I thought of a very specific story from my life that I actually wrote in my forthcoming memoir. Yes, that was a shameless plug. Because I remember this conversation that I had with my first business partner. My Saturn return was a very concentrated time of lesson learning, as you can imagine. The year I turned 30, I opened a salon with a friend who left after 8 months. And I took over running the space. I took on a new business partner, and I worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3.5 years. I was burnt toast. My body was suffering. My mental health was suffering. It was very clear that I was suffering from adrenal fatigue and burnout, but I didn't know how to stop. I always thought that working harder was the solution. That's what my mind was telling me anyway. So I started having to take pills to relax my nervous system, to get at least 4 hours of sleep if I could get it. And I was unnaturally thin, not to mention my skin, which is my biggest indicator always, spleen, was breaking out in cystic acne all over my cheeks, my shoulders. I was a mess. So the second business partner confronts me one day and she starts yelling at me, like telling me that I seem really checked out, obviously, that I'm not really present in the business anymore. And my open solar plexus just wanted to run into a hole and hide. I hated this confrontation. I hated that she was yelling at me. I resented it. I was like, can't you see that I'm killing myself? But I didn't say a word. And then out of nowhere, at the end of this rant, she screams, do you want to do this? And I remember this because life very rarely hands you such perfect yes and no questions. But here it was. And the reason I remember it is because every cell in my body was screaming, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Can't you see that I'm dying? And all I heard myself say was, of course I do. Yes, of course I want to keep going. It was 6 months before I admitted to myself and everyone else in my life that I didn't have the energy to continue doing this any longer. 6 months. And I thought that this was an extreme case until I read the book, The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate. Who here has read that book? Whew. It's a very powerful read. I highly, highly, highly recommend. Dr. Mate is known for studying trauma as it relates to terminal diseases such as cancer, autoimmune diseases that are very much on the rise in spite of the fact that we have all of these medical advancements and scientific breakthroughs that we've discovered over the years. And what stood out to me in this book is that he talks a lot about what he calls lowercase t trauma, which we just call conditioning in the human design world, right? So frustration starts pretty early on for generators, because if we have a no for something, the authorities over us, be it our parents or teachers or what have you, well-meaning adults, honestly, say too bad. Who here has ever been told to eat their vegetables or go to school or do an extracurricular activity that they didn't want to do? For me, it was soccer. Ugh. That's So we normalize frustration and we just get used to it. The myth of normal, right? That being frustrated is normal. And what is frustration? Frustration is a disturbed frequency in the body. We are naturally designed to be satisfied, but because we're so used to being frustrated, we don't even know what that feels like. You have a no for that? Too bad. You got to do it. After I read this book, I also ended up listening to a bunch of lectures by Dr. Mate. I got a little fangirl, to be honest. He's Hungarian, I'm Hungarian, it fits. And he started this lecture about terminal illness by reading a list of obituaries of people that had passed away prematurely from cancer or some other such disease. And these obituaries were meant to be a celebration of who they were. But if you really listen to these obituaries, you can tell that these people were completely abandoning themselves. The woman whose husband described her as always agreeable, always available. She worked until the day she died. Or the man who was such an amazing son that he had dinner with his mother every night before he went home and had a second dinner with his wife and kids. And he died of heart disease, not shockingly. These people did not know how to say no. They didn't know how to say no. There is a saying from the Akashic Records that I love, and every time I say it, it gives me chills. It goes, self-abandonment is the king of all wounds. It is the wound from which all other wounds stem. It's self-abandonment. And because we are experiencing this as a normal phenomenon, we develop all sorts of unhealthy habits and patterns to help us cope with this frustration, to push down the frustration, to make ourselves do it because our minds say that we have to. And it's not really a surprise because social inclusion is a really big part of the human need. As human beings, as children, as babies, we need our parents for longer than any other animal in the animal kingdom for survival. So first, it's your family of origin that you're trying to please, and then eventually it becomes your peers. If you're a tribal person, especially like myself, disappointing other people in your tribe feels like a near-death experience. And these energy signatures, they get stuck. When you're frustrated in a long-term way, it turns into resentment, anger, what have you. And because we are 70% of the population, it permeates everything and everyone. A projector friend of mine once told me that the biggest gift that a generator could ever give a projector is not an invitation. It's to be satisfied, because that frequency feels so much better to absorb than that frustration. This is pretty satisfying, actually. That was a weak. So one of the things that I've learned along this journey as well is that you cannot decondition the energy signatures through the mind. You know, we've taken human design through the mind. We give ourselves permission to do these things differently now because we understand strategy and authority and the nuances of everything. But saying no doesn't get much easier over time. I was actually invited to speak at another conference this year, and I had a very clear no for it, so I politely declined. And then I cried for 3 days. My mind was very, very, very upset with me. I had FOMO. I was afraid of what people were going to call me. Diva, whatever. 2145 is always scared of being called a diva. But after I cried it out, after I released through those tears, I felt very peaceful about my decision. I didn't need to know why I said no any longer. And I realized that releasing through different mediums, whether it be energy work or something along those lines, is something that we can't avoid in this process. One of my favorite modalities that I have learned in this process is something called tapping or emotional freedom technique. Who here has ever done that or heard of it? Yeah. So this is a way to tap on certain pressure points in the body. I am not a practitioner, by the way, but I know a really good one. And by tapping on these meridians, we release energy we didn't even know we were holding on to. We didn't even realize they were stuck in us. But when smaller things come up, when you're making an unpopular decision, sometimes it helps to do a very simple sequence in order to help you feel safe in your body again. Tapping is not for everyone. Jen and I were discussing this last night. But I would love it if you guys would do a little tapping sequence with me. We're not going to go through all the meridians, but you can either tap on your collarbones like this, or the side of your hand like this, or you can alternate, whichever feels good for you. And actually, what I have found is that the reason it's nice to be tapping on your body is because it reminds your mind when there's all this chaos that you have a body. Like, oh yeah, I'm in here, not here, right? So if you want, you can close your eyes, but I'd love for you to repeat after me. Just going to give ourselves a little grace at first. Even though I said yes when I really meant no, I still love and accept myself. Now you.
Yes, when I really know, I still love and accept myself.
Even though I said yes when I really meant no, I still love and respect myself.
Even though I said yes when I really meant no, I still love and respect myself.
Even though I said yes when I really meant no, I still love and forgive myself.
Even though I said yes when I really meant no, I still love and forgive myself.
It is safe for me to say no now.
It is safe for me to say no now.
It is safe for me to be me now.
It is safe for me to be me now.
I love myself.
I love myself.
Those who love me will understand.
Those who love me will understand.
Those who are meant for me will be in my life.
Those who are meant for me will be in my life.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
I love myself.
I love myself.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to open it up to questions from anyone in the audience, but also if you would like to speak with me one-on-one, I would love that. So I'll be around all day today. Thank you, Brayton, so much for inviting me to do this.
Thank you.
Satisfaction.
Good job. Good job.
That was a great topic to respond to, for sure.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I liked doing it. It was such an amazing crowd. I really enjoyed the questions that I got afterwards. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to answer those for you. I hope to be back again next year for that conference. I really enjoyed visiting Salt Lake and being with all of my peers. So thank you again for watching, and until next time, ciao for now.